All right, Doc. Thank you for making time for us tonight to have this conversation. I'm glad we finally got time to do this.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. So, can you give us a brief background of what you do, and then we can get into the conversation?
Okay, so essentially, I'm a obstetrician gynecologist. So
Okay.
I deal with women and women's health. So disease of the
Mm,
pregnant woman and the non-pregnant woman. And I have
mm,
subspecialties in fertility and then
mm.
minimal access or keyhole surgery. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
that's my sub interest areas. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Today we'll be talking about surrogacy. I know most people have questions. I've tried to compile all that in the questions for our conversation today. So definitely, I know people will find answers after our discussion. So we'll get straight into it. I want you to explain in layman terms what surrogacy is and how is it different from the traditional means of conception that we know?
Okay, so I think traditionally, when you're trying to conceive, it's just a couple
Mm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, trying to. So basically, the the man and the woman try
Mm-hmm.
to have a baby, and then
Mm-hmm.
the baby is genetically related to. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the man brought the sperm, the woman had the egg, so the baby is related to the
Mm-hmm.
two parents in the traditional setting.
Mm.
Now, when
Yeah.
you want to bring a surrogate, it means that
Mm.
there's a third party that has been introduced. Now, that third party
Mm-hmm.
technically is a host. So, that third
Okay.
party is supposed to carry the pregnancy. In circumstances where maybe the woman is too old or for some other reason, cannot, medical reasons or any other, some similar reasons, cannot carry
Mm-hmm.
the pregnancy, or
Mm.
her womb
Mm.
is non functional, has been removed, maybe either of due to birth, intrapartum or birth complications, then
Mm-hmm.
a third party is introduced. So we call that the surrogate.
Mm.
Now there are different kinds. We
Mm.
have the traditional kind of surrogacy. We have the gestational
Okay.
kind of surrogacy. The traditional kind of
Mm-hmm.
surrogacy is something that has been practiced for years. There are a couple of
Mm.
examples in the Bible and most of our communities where a couple living together, maybe because of age or inability to have a child, the
Mm-hmm.
woman might go and bring a younger woman to come and bear children
Mm-hmm.
for the man. A classical example is Abraham, Sarah, and then Hagar in the Bible. So something similar.
Mm.
So in the traditional one, the baby being carried by the surrogate is related to the carrier herself.
Okay.
Yes, because it's just a man uh, having a child with a third another woman. Meanwhile, the official
Mm.
partner or wife is there. So she's been sort of brought in
Okay.
like a contract, have a baby for this person in order to
Mm-hmm.
achieve their aim of conception. You
Mm.
understand?
Mm.
Good.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the traditional surrogacy. Then we have the gestational. The gestational is what is
Okay.
supported by the law, and that's what we as clinicians are involved in. We generally are not involved in
Okay.
the traditional. That is people's own private arrangements. The
Mm.
gestational, the key thing is that the baby, the woman carrying the pregnancy, should not be genetically
Mm-hmm.
related to the baby. So
Okay.
typically, she's a neutral host who's brought in, screened, and checked for
Mm-hmm.
all diseases, has a good pregnancy history, either has had one child herself with a good
Mm,
antenatal course, the pregnancy outcome was fine. Then she comes in
mm,
contracted and is carrying a baby made up of a sperm and an egg from two other individuals. So it's like a triangle.
okay.
There's a man who got the
Mm-hmm,
sperm, a wife or partner who had the egg, and a third party who came to
mm-hmm,
carry the pregnancy to delivery time, and she delivers the baby, hands it over to the people who contributed the sperm and the egg, and then she leaves the
mm,
scene. Usually they are compensated financially, and then they leave
mm.
the scene. So that is a gestational surrogacy, which is supported by the law.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Thank you for that insight because I think all along some of us thought it was just the gestational one. We know that that's where you come
Yeah, so
in,
gestation one will come here, but
as
I
you
mean the
explained.
surrogacy concept has been in a lot of cultures for years without
Mm,
realizing that
mm-hmm,
that was surrogacy.
mm, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense now. So, at what point do you, you being the clinician, at what point do you recommend? Do you do that? Do you recommend surrogacy to a couple?
Yes, so sometimes
Is it
after the
something you
initial
do?
assessment, when they come in to see you for fertility treatment, you assess and
Mm,
then you realize that typically the woman is the host. So she's carrying the pregnancy
mm,
for 9 months and 3 months. But there are some times where maybe a previous pregnancy rendered complications in her womb, and the womb had to be taken across. She was
mm,
bleeding to save her life. It could be
mm,
scenarios where her womb
mm,
has uh, some defects that makes it possible for her to carry a
mm,
pregnancy, or she had multiple
mm,
miscarriages, and for reasons where we can't sometimes it fully determine why the miscarriages are occurring,
mm,
or she's very
mm,
advanced in age, has comorbid or coexisting medical problems that might a pregnancy might
mm,
worsen them. So that might be life threatening. She does get pregnant with those like heart conditions and every
mhm,
other
conditions.
things. Yeah,
Mm,
she's not suitable to carry a
mm,
pregnancy. So these are some of the scenarios
mm,
where at that point you want a different host, I should put it in quotes, to come in and carry
mhm,
the pregnancy. So and that
mm.
was under those circumstances then a third party or surrogacy is recommended or likely to be introduced.
Introduce.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I know you gave us a glimpse of the process earlier, but can you take us through? And is there a special process, like a selection process for the potential surrogates? So, can you take us through the process and then if there's anything that goes into the selection of the surrogates as well?
Well, so typically, because it's a third party reproduction, surrogacy falls under the third party reproduction. So it's trying to achieve
Okay.
conception using a third party, other than the two people who typically should have
Mm,
created their own baby in a way.
mm,
So you
mm.
will have to use IVF, in vitro fertilization, where the
Okay.
fertilization everything is done in the lab. You understand? So
Okay.
we are doing a gestational. It's not the
Yeah.
traditional way the man and the woman could have been together. No.
Mm,
So you have to use
mm,
IVF the process. So usually the man is screened, blood test, semen test analysis.
mm,
The woman who is
mhm,
giving the egg is also screened.
mhm,
Typically, that's the man and the
mhm,
wife or one and the partner. So blood tests
mm,
and maybe air quality tests and all that are done on her. Once both are fine,
mm.
then the third party, which is the surrogate, is also selected and screened. Typically, the surrogate should
Mm.
be 35 or below. So
Oh,
between
okay.
18 and 35, because beyond 35, they may have
Mm.
other medical conditions that may
Conditions.
not make them
Mm.
suitable to carry. So ideally, 35 and below, typically under
Okay.
30 years, where there are no
Okay.
pre-existing or coexisting medical problems. Not likely. she should have at least had
Okay.
one pregnancy and even delivered one child before. So we know clearly
Oh.
the cause, how pregnancy behaves with her, in a sense,
Mm,
the outcome of her pregnancies
mm,
and everything. No medical
okay.
problems, no genetic diseases, sickle
Mm,
cell, anything, nothing like that. And then
mm,
she should be fully screened of all infections, maybe hepatitis, HIV, all those things.
mm,
Should be fully clean. So once she's also
mm,
selected, then it's sort of like a triangle. So it's the the husband's sperm. So we start the process. So in IVF, you
mhm,
will synchronize
mhm.
the the woman giving the egg, which is the wife, typically, or partner,
Yeah.
and then the carrier.
Mm,
Their menstrual
yeah.
cycles, to a point where you give them medications, injections,
Mm,
everything. To a point where, at the point where the woman is on taking daily injections to generate eggs that you can harvest, the surrogate is on
okay.
medication, prepare her womb to receive. In very simple terms, that's
Okay.
how we do it. So at some point, when the eggs are
Mm,
ready, we harvest it, add the husband's sperm, incubate it for about 5 days to get good quality embryos,
mm,
and we transfer it
mm,
into the womb of
into
the
the cell.
third party who's been taking medication
Mm,
waiting to receive. And then after some
okay.
days, pregnancy tests, then when she's pregnant, then she gets to carry and start routine antenatal
The
care
process.
to the delivery time. Yeah.
Mm, okay. Okay. So, do you take these? Okay, so the three involved in the triangle. Do you take them through any
Yes.
counseling or
So
psychological
yeah, so
assessments? Yeah,
counseling is done
before.
for the couple to understand the fact that
Okay.
it's a different form of reproduction. So
Also.
what to
Mm,
expect, um,
mm,
in terms of so usually it's a four-way thing. So there's a husband, the wife, the surrogate, and the clinician, or the clinic in the middle.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
usually they understand what they're going through, having to do the
Mm,
mental knowledge of their baby is being carried by a third party somewhere. Usually you want to see
mhm.
your
Mhm.
baby under your own watch to see how the baby is growing, all that.
Mm,
So it's a bit difficult for couples who have conceived on their own before and then now have to do a third party. So you have to go
mm.
through all that.
Things will feel
Exactly, it
different.
feels different. For those who haven't achieved
Mm,
babies before, they're excited because after all, is a baby coming.
yeah.
So
Different. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a bit different, and then
Mm,
counseling what to expect for the surrogate to what she goes through, the fact that she has to
mhm.
hand over the baby right after delivery, so there's no
Of course.
attachment or bonding
Mm,
developing,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
usually for some of them it's difficult for them. You know, there's a
Mhm.
risk of depression on
Mm,
her side after the baby is taken away. So we have to talk to them multiple times.
mm,
They also have to understand the obligation towards her, in sense of the fact that they'll be responsible for her through an agency or through the
mm,
clinic. So her money for
mm,
her upkeep, anything she needs, clothing, all those things they are responsible for. And then
mm,
what the clinic also has to offer them in terms of regular updates, how the pregnancy is going,
mm,
everything. So
mm.
all that is, uh,
Okay. You share that with the couple, as in the progress of the pregnancy, all
yes,
those details. You share it
you
with
have
the
to.
couple.
It's part of it. So it's part of the counseling, the discussion, and there's paperwork
Okay.
are signed to all these things.
Oh, okay.
With
Okay.
legal representation involved. So
Mm,
it's a legal document. So the couple's responsibility towards
mm,
the surrogate, the surrogate's responsibility towards the couple, and the clinic's responsibility
mhm.
towards the surrogate
So,
and the couple.
mm,
So it could be a clinic or agency,
mm,
whichever one
mm,
is handling the surrogate.
mm,
Yeah. So yeah, that's what happens.
mm,
So a lot of counseling is
okay.
involved. Not once.
Mm.
multiple times, you know, over
Mm.
several issues and several things. Yeah.
Mm. I'm sure you've had some difficult situations where, after, as you said, maybe depression may set in, or the person may not be willing to just offer the child after delivery. Like, has there been any situation like that?
Oh yeah,
Any
we've
complication
had
like that?
scenarios where that's happened often though, but sometimes where the in the course of pregnancy, you have
Mm-hmm.
some challenges with the pregnancy. You have some surrogates
Mm.
who've not really been very compliant. Some too,
Mm.
in some scenarios, may have been not well treated by agencies. Sometimes they run and leave
Mm.
the original plan.
Hey.
So we have some rare scenarios of complications that happens,
Mm.
but most of it, a lot
Mm.
of it go well with no major
Mm.
incidents. And then, yeah,
Mm.
some when you deliver after a few days, they're a bit depressed about it, you know. I think there's
Mm.
the reality of having to leave the baby
Leave the child,
doesn't dawn on
yeah.
them till it happens and
Mm.
so yeah, you have occasionally you have that. It's not the usual, but occasionally it does happen.
Mm. Mm. Okay. So is the process affordable in Ghana, for like in in Ghana, for instance? Is there an affordable option?
I think surrogacy everywhere is not affordable. It's not very.
Mm.
It's not cheap. That is
Mm.
the truth
Mm.
because it
Mm.
involves a lot of things. There's
Mm.
a screening part for medical screening to be sure everything's fine. There's the
Mm.
IVF process itself, and
Mhm.
the medication, very special medication that it requires.
Mhm.
There's the monthly.
The whole IVF is an entire cost.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So it's an entire cost. And that's also embedded in the full
Mm.
cost, the surrogacy bill.
Mm.
Then there's
Mm.
they are they are usually housed in a particular place. There's a
Mhm.
monthly stipend given to them.
Wow.
Um, I mean, some funds for their upkeep, basically change of clothes.
And the
As
medical.
they get bigger,
Mm.
clothes have to
Mhm.
change.
Mhm.
That's also coming.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
the medical bills of maybe
Mhm.
antenatal clinic
Mhm.
attendants,
Mhm.
ultrasound scans.
Mm.
There's the
Mm.
delivery part of it. Usually it's by C-sections.
Mm.
Most of it is by
Okay.
C-section. Then
Mm.
there's the final payout compensation to the surrogate, which usually is their main
Mm.
motivation. And some of them don't quote very cheap, low figures. It's quite high. So
Wow.
because you want them to deliver and do the work well, you also want to meet them halfway to be sure that
Mm.
because you don't want somebody who is unhappy carrying your pregnancy.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
a bit of so yeah, all these ultimately contribute to a process that is not
Mm.
uh, that cheap, if I should say.
Yeah. 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 Is there a reason why the delivery is done by C-section mostly?
Well, it's not always, but it seems to be a very
Okay.
convenient preferred because of
Okay.
sometimes, typically, labor can take 2 weeks from to kick in.
Yeah.
Exactly, and
Mm.
the actual date of delivery is not very predictable by everybody. It could happen dawn at night, all
Yeah.
those things. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
The baby is also technically someone's investment. That is not to be toyed
Mm.
with, in a sense.
Mm.
So usually you wouldn't want to have a baby that for a couple that has been waiting for several years for a baby. to be popping out at let's say 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. You understand? So
Mm,
realistically,
mm,
where would the mother be? Is the mother who commissioned the
mm,
surrogate available? So usually it's a
mm,
discussion. All parties agree to a certain date, and then a C-section is
mm,
delivered. It's much more convenient. Okay, and sometimes with
mm,
the unpredictability of labor, uh,
mm.
we don't want any complication
Okay.
of labor happening, and then you lose the baby. You
Mm-hmm.
understand?
That's
Paying so
understandable.
much,
Mm,
normal years of infertility. You understand? It's the dynamics tend to tip the delivery towards a C-section, which is a more convenient approach. Mm.
mm, okay. So, is there anything like, okay, there's something unique with babies born via surrogates? Like you mentioned, that the mother, that's the surrogate who delivers the child, isn't given the opportunity to bond, like have that, is it first touch, kind of experience with the baby. So, is there anything that makes babies born via surrogates unique? Is there anything like that?
No, I mean babies born by surrogates are regular babies.
Okay.
Uh,
Mm.
as I baking something in domestic situation,
Mm-hmm.
whatever was used to make the cake or the ingredients will determine how the cake will
Mm-hmm.
taste like. Good.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm.
oven is just the housing. So the woman technically is just the surrogate is just like quote unquote the oven. The genetics
Mm.
of the
Okay.
baby is from the couple, the man and the woman who generated the
Parents.
sperm and the egg.
Mm. Okay.
So that
Okay.
baby will look like them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I now get it.
Yeah.
So it's the surrogate is more like housing the baby
The
during
surrogate
that
is just a host for a
conception
period of
period.
9 months.
Mm.
It's like you're renting
Mm.
a womb,
Okay.
period.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense.
Yeah. So there's no
Yeah.
attachment. Mm. Okay. Recently, Chimamanda, she's an award-winning author. She granted an interview where she openly um, announced that she had her twin babies via surrogate, and you know people were just bombarding her with insults. People were calling her names,
Hmm.
and she, she appeared cool about it, but you could see that some were very insensitive with regards to the comments that people were making on social media about the whole thing. And when people hear surrogacy, they start saying all sorts of things. What are some of the myths? Like, I just wanted to demystify some of them, like that people have about surrogacy, the whole process of having somebody else carry your child and all that.
Well, I think a lot of them are of the myths and misconceptions are generated by a lack of understanding of the system or how the thing works.
Yeah,
Because
process works. Mm.
truth of the matter is, yes, there are a lot of social, cultural, and sometimes religious
Mhm.
reservations against surrogacy. I mean,
Mhm.
and a religion like Islam, it's very much against
Mhm.
third party reproduction. So
Mm.
surrogates, donor egg, donor sperm, all that doesn't sit very
Mm.
well with them, and they have their
Okay.
reasons. Other faiths
Mm.
also have similar pushback on third party. Culturally, too,
Mm.
there are some tribes and cultures that also don't like surrogates. They see
Mm.
them as they are not human enough, or they might be
Mhm.
children with deformities because of the IVF process used.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
there are a whole lot of stuff, you know. Uh, they don't see how a baby produced or taken out of a womb of one woman actually belongs genetically to another woman.
So another one.
It's very
Yeah.
difficult for them to connect it because culturally,
Mm.
Whichever woman the baby comes from, that's the mother.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
Yeah.
culture. So it's difficult to
Mm.
name another woman somewhere who didn't see as pregnant, a mother of a baby who
Mm-hmm.
came out from another woman we also lying down. Yes, it's very difficult to connect it. You get the point. So
Mm.
it makes it. I mean, sometimes people commissioning mothers who have commissioned surrogates to carry babies are seen as you went to
Mm-hmm.
steal the baby, it's not your child. You're just working here. We didn't see
Yeah.
you
That's it.
pregnant.
Yeah.
The next thing you say you have a child. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's a bit difficult to understand, and some people don't even know that it does exist, and people can do that. So
Yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
a whole lot of stuff against it, but we still trudge on. We see how it goes.
Mm. When I shared the conversation, the flyer, the topic, and everything on social media, people are like, ah, people do surrogacy in Ghana. Like, is it a real thing? I'm like, seriously, you know, like people don't. I don't know how many clinics or hospitals here are doing that, but I know it's not that much, right?
Well,
It's quite a few.
clinics
Oh,
don't often do surrogacy. Clinics tend to offer the medical aspect and expertise.
oh,
Most
okay.
surrogates are handled by agencies.
Oh, okay.
So usually the agency will then bring the surrogate. They will deal with the commissioning parents, and then to the
Mm,
clinic, and the clinicians will get the process done till she's pregnant, and the agency will take her back
mm,
into their custody uh, to sort of house her and all that, and we bringing her on and off to
for medical care.
antenatal care and prenatal care. Yes,
Mm,
yeah. Clinics get do it,
mm,
but we are not. Maybe it's on a slightly lower percentage
mhm,
than agencies.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Okay. So, saying that, how do you, from your perspective, how do you think Ghanaians are embracing the whole process? Because even when a woman has a baby via C-section, people say all sorts of things that that's not real birth. Like,
Yeah.
people say so many
So
nasty
it comes
things.
back to the cultural.
Even
Yeah, the
adoption.
cultural thing I
Mm,
mentioned to you that
mm, mm,
it's very difficult for people to understand that
mm,
surrogacy is there. I mean, most of the people I have done it for, after even baby
mm.
arrives, find it so difficult, even to announcing to immediate family that they're giving birth
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
the questions that's going to follow. Like, how
Mm,
was it? How we didn't see you pregnant? How are you sure this is your child? You
mm,
didn't go and take a child from somewhere. It's they are not
mm,
ready to answer the questions. So though they are happy that
mm.
their challenge with fertility and conception has ended and the child has come,
We have another
the other
problem.
hurdle is, and sometimes they don't even announce the surrogate part because they don't want the child to be tagged. Now growing up,
Mm,
maybe they are fine, but
yeah, the stigma.
the stigma
Mm,
exactly for the child, like you are born under some
mm,
suspicious circumstances. Yes,
mm,
so a
mm,
lot of them have difficulty announcing that this baby was by surrogate.
mm,
You get the point.
mm,
They might admit to a few close members, but generally
mm.
they struggle to.
They don't come
Yeah,
out.
it's not an open
Mm,
thing. Only few are bold to
mm,
announce it, and usually those who announce it, they have so much Western exposure that they are not really.
mm.
Uh,
They don't really care.
Plus, some of them
Mm,
even live in the African context. In the our continent is a bit
yeah.
different,
Mm,
so they don't live here,
mm,
and they live in an open world where everybody minds their business. Nobody is judging you for
mm,
anything.
mm,
You understand? So
mm.
it's easier for them to announce, like Chimamanda made her stuff open.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
But here,
Mm,
quite a number of beneficiaries I have seen through surrogacy tend not to be very
mm,
open about that part
okay.
for obvious
Mm,
reasons. Yeah.
mm,
Mm.
okay. We are getting to the end of the conversation, but I want you to address this from your perspective. What do you think is the evolution of conception and reproductive health? Do you think there's something, because surrogacy was, well, from what you gave us from the background, it's been there, but I think we are now, it's now getting here. So do you think something else may come up in the next future, the next generation? Because I saw a post on Instagram about AI transplanted babies and stuff like that. So what do you think is the next thing for reproduction or conception when it comes to the evolution, the dynamism, and all that?
Well, I think there's not going to be any AI baby per se, if I should put it that way.
Mm.
They are forever going to be babies because the human race has to continue. So every generation
Yeah.
want to have children, and I think what technology is going to do is to probably get incorporated into the methodology and the processes that we
Mm.
use to try and help couples achieve conception and make it a bit
Mm.
more
Mm.
efficient and then maybe
Mm.
over time
Mm.
improve the success rate. So that's what technology is likely to do to fertility
Mm.
and conception. So those AI
Mm.
babies that you're referring to, you're just I think it happened somewhere earlier this year where um,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, they use an AI algorithm or like
Mhm.
a robot
Mhm.
to take out some part of the IVF process. So
Mm.
usually there's a trained professional called the embryologist who
Okay.
who take the egg, take the sperm, process it, and then supervise the mixing and fertilization process to the point
Okay.
where the embryos are ready to be trans, transferred into the womb to continue.
Okay.
Uh-huh. So what they did was they had a protocol run a cycle where they took out the embryologist and
Mhm.
they put an AI algorithm, AI robot kind of thing there. So for
Okay.
that process, you saw the robot did the handling of the gametes, the sperm and the egg,
Oh,
and
okay.
then created the insemination and all the big. I think the robot injected the sperm into the eggs, and then
Yeah.
created the embryos. Yeah, sir. And then the
Oh,
transfer,
so it's not like that.
yeah, and the transfer was done. So he ended up having
Uh
fairly good quality embryos, like a human being would have done it. And
huh.
then
Uh huh.
those
Uh huh.
embryos
Uh
were
huh.
transferred, and the woman got pregnant. I think it happened in Mexico or something.
Uh huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I
So,
just saw the caption,
uh-huh.
the
so,
photo, and
so
then
what happened was, so that was the first time that they had used AI and the robot
try
to
that.
replace
Yes. Yes. Yes.
a portion of
Yes.
the IVF process. You understand?
Mm,
And had resulted in a good embryo and then the subsequent pregnancy, clinical pregnancy. So that
yeah.
gave prospects. Okay, that means that we can use AI in scenarios where maybe embryology is not available or something
Mm,
to improve the
mm,
process or something. So I think
mm,
that was largely experimental, but then an eye opener.
yeah. Yes.
That
Yes.
this other alternative also works. So I think that
Mm,
truth of the matter is the technology is likely to be incorporated into the process over the years, and then it
mm,
might refine certain aspects of the process,
of the process.
and then most
Mm.
likely it might improve the success rate as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for breaking it down
Yeah.
because I was getting scared. Are we going to have AI babies walking around? Okay, so Doc, your final words to a couple considering the option of surrogacy, or a woman out there who is looking forward to. Do you have people actually who actually volunteer that okay, I want to be a surrogate, or you go scouting
Oh,
for
we
them?
have
Like how?
several. We have several.
Mm,
I mean, I've had some who
mm,
volunteer, I've had some who also tell their friends and they come and we have several. Yeah. It
oh,
can be a bit
okay. Okay.
inconvenient because for the next 9 months you have to let go everything you're doing and then sometimes
Mm-hmm.
be taken into a different place and then kept for a while,
Mm.
sort of confinement, if I should put it that way.
You mean the surrogates for the
Yes, for a
surrogates?
surrogate, yeah. So
Okay.
your schedule will change a bit. You don't get to go and live in your own area. And then again, sometimes
Your
it's
normal
like
place.
that because
Yeah,
if you go finding yourself in your own environment and you're pregnant, a lot of questions will come. Yes,
definitely.
and who are you pregnant
Like
with?
when did you get pregnant?
Exactly. Also, the dynamics are such that you need to have be away from your environment. So
Mm,
it's a bit. It takes a lot of uh, intention to be a
mm,
surrogate in the sense that you're ready to be somewhat inconvenienced. If I should put it that way. It might not be
yeah,
the best term to use,
yeah.
but then
Mm.
in a way,
Like a disruption from your normal life.
potentially could be a disruption. And that's sometimes a
Mm,
limiting factor
mm,
into getting people to do a surrogate because then whatever I'm
yeah.
doing, I have to put it on pause for 9 months and get this thing done
Yeah.
before I move on.
Just think of yourself going on a trip, like for
Yes,
9 months.
so sometimes they will tell their relatives that, oh, I'm traveling, I'll be back in a year. You get,
Okay. Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
get to do that.
Mm,
So you need to have somebody who is ready to have that kind of time to spare. Then that will
to do that.
be the
Yeah.
person who could be your surrogate.
Okay. 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 So, Doc, your word of advice to a couple
So
considering
for a
surrogacy.
couple, sometimes I mean, as I listed earlier, the indications are the maybe you have medical problems that do not make you pregnancy a suitable
Mm-hmm.
option for you, but you're young
Mm,
enough, or you still want to a stage where you still want a family, or you're seeking to conceive. Yes, there's an option where a
mm,
third party can carry for you, and then it's
mm,
legal and it's safe, supervised
mm,
by medical people. And then if you've had your womb removed, maybe after a first child, and you still desire to have other children, you could use a
yeah.
third party carry for you and all that.
Mm,
If you have some challenges with your womb that makes you, or you have a very, very small, tiny womb that's not functional, but your ovaries are
mm.
fine, you could also use somebody's womb to carry and all that.
Sorry, your
So
child.
for every couple that the limitation was maybe you cannot carry pregnancy,
Mm,
uh, they need to know that yes, there's an option where I can then bring in a third party to carry for me, and
it's,
a very well structured contract like setup, so
mm.
that once they deliver,
The legal backing.
they hand over my baby to
Mm,
me, and I compensate
mm,
them, and then they can go. Yeah.
mm. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for I think the
Okay.
conversation has been very insightful. I've also learned a lot I didn't know before about the whole process, and I'm sure the myths and the misconceptions have also been cleared. And yeah, thank you so much for
I hope
that.
they are cleared.
Oh yeah. Well, for me, I'm sure. When we put out the topic, people also send questions. So some of them are also part of what we've discussed. So definitely, I'm sure some have been addressed
Okay,
to an extent. Hopefully,
that's
subsequent education, it needs more sensitization too, because people don't even know it's something doable in Ghana.
mm,
So I think a lot more sensitization and education will also help. But Doc, tell us about your facility and what you also do generally.
Okay, so
I stay
stay
well.
was basically we are in East Legon, Nigeria now. It's
Okay.
it's a general medical clinic, also offering specialist services. Um,
Mm,
I'm one of the lead clinicians, so basically, because I'm an OBGYN, a lot of services
mm,
are women's health, gynecology, fertility
okay.
oriented, but the other services are so there are physicians, there are dietitians, there are pediatric service. So I think heavy on
Okay.
our service, I offer fertility, insemination, IVF, we do surrogacy,
Mm,
um,
mm,
most of it there. We offer
okay.
also do minimal access, so hysteroscopy where we are going to your womb with a camera. We can offer laparoscopy, which minimal access, keyhole
Okay.
surgery, removing fibroids, small cysts without a big cut, all that. So all that
Mm,
is
mm,
incorporated. That's because that's my inclination. So our services are heavily
mm,
on that. We also offer ultrasound scans, antenatal clinics are
mm,
there. We do
mm.
genetic testing of unborn babies, like maybe your baby, two
Okay.
sickle cell parents want to know if their child has sickle cell or their mother,
Mm,
an aged mother
mm,
questioning whether their child may have Down syndrome. We can also take a bit of
oh,
the water on the baby whilst the baby is still in the run testing. And
oh, you do that before the baby comes
yeah,
out. You can do that
before
before the
baby is
baby.
born, yeah. So we do a lot of
Oh,
stuff
okay.
uh, aside the general medical clinics as well. So we do a bit of specialized stuff
Mm.
along. Yeah,
Oh, okay. That's broad and extensive.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Doc. Maybe the next time we should get you to talk about fibroids as well. You know, it's something a lot of women. Um, I think it's very common. It's something very common, and some even don't know they have it until maybe it grows to a certain
Yeah,
extent,
so
and
it's
there's so
fairly
much.
common in
Mhm.
black women and white women as
Yes,
well anyway.
yes,
But
yeah,
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 mm,
yeah. So maybe the next time we will have that conversation.
sure, sure. Mhm.
Thank you, Doc. Please, can you share your social media handles with us finally
Okay,
before we let you
sure,
go?
sure, sure. Okay. Yeah, so thank you for having me. So I think on Facebook, I think we have Facebook and an Instagram page. Those are the main active
Okay,
ones. So on Instagram, we are still
okay,
healthcare together as one word. And then I think on
okay.
Facebook, we are still healthcare Ghana on Facebook.
Stay well, healthcare
Yes,
Ghana.
on
Okay,
Facebook. Yeah. So
okay.
I think those are our main Instagram channels. I think our
Social
phone lines, everything available on those pages as well.
on that.
I think
Okay,
our DMs too
okay,
are very quite responsive. So when you send, we
yeah,
could
mm,
also reply anytime. Yeah.
okay.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, thank you so
Sure, you're
much, Doc.
welcome.
Thank you
Thank you
for
for
your
having
time.
me. Yes.
Okay. Enjoy your
You
evening.
too. Yeah. And
Okay. All
take
right,
care.
bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you.